Well, here we go. Welcome to the Profit Tool Belt podcast. It's just for builders, remodelers, and GCs. If you serve commercial or residential customers and you're interested in the business of the contracting business, then welcome. Now, you might be in a place where you're proud of where you're at. You're already doing 1 or 2 million a year in sales, but you're also wise enough to know that you need some new answers to old problems. Well, then you, my friend, are ready, because this show is all about getting to the next level by working smarter, not just harder all the time. Now, today's guests are, because I've got two guests, Thaddeus and Evan, and they host a podcast called HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Now, we met at a conference, the New Flat Rate Conference in Atlanta. I do actually quite a bit of work in the HVAC space and different mechanical contractors. And I met these gentlemen when I was speaking at that show. Today, we're going to talk about how to pivot your marketing. Now, you might be listening thinking, well, I don't do HVAC, Dom. We do renos, or we do roofing, or slab jacking, or mold remediation. I don't know, whatever your trade is, right? And I want you to remember, this is not about your trade. This is actually about business people coming together to learn business concepts so we can all get better together. If you're on a growth path and you want to get to the next level, there's a good chance you can't see over the next hill. It's been the same with me every time I've grown my business, and I'm sure it's the same with you. So listening to these two gentlemen, the wisdom that they're going to bring on the side of the HVAC world, ask yourself how you can apply it to your trade, to your business, because you can. Remember, this show's about the business of the contracting business. It's not the business of HVAC or any other trade. Anyways, before I forget, you should connect with all of us on LinkedIn. The guests' names today, there's Evan Hoffman, there's Thaddeus Tondu. You could probably find him just by figuring out how to spell Thaddeus, and then the last name is Tondu, Tondu. And then myself, Dominic Rubino. I've been on LinkedIn for many years. You should connect with us there. Anyways, this is why this episode is important. Listen, these guys met at Cutco Knives. And if you haven't learned to sell, then you got to talk to people who have gone through and done the hard yards. Cutco Knives is one of the hardest places to learn to sell, only because you go through repetition after repetition after repetition again and again and again. They're selling knives door to door in people's homes as kids. Anyways, that's where they learned the mindset of success and selling. And then eventually that took them into selling print media. And then it eventually took them into selling and doing HVAC work. None of us have, or very few of us have, straight lines for where we are today. But I want you to listen to this show today about pivoting, because that's what we're going to talk about, how to pivot your marketing. I want you to get a long way away. I want you to distance yourself from being the kind of contractor who says, well, hey, Dom, we built our entire business on word of mouth and referrals. Now, I don't want to look at that sideways because it got you to where you are today, but you're probably finding the things that everybody else finds with word of mouth and referrals. There's no lever to push or pull. There's no buttons. It's like punching a marshmallow. Now, how hard you try, no matter how hard you try, you can't make the phone ring. And so you end up being stuck because we're living on word of mouth and referrals. Even worse is if you start to get referrals from low-grade customers. I don't mean low-grade people. I just mean people asking for smaller jobs in neighborhoods that are further away, that are kind of outside what your specialty is, not really what you're passionate about. It gets worse because then they give you referrals to more people like that. I've always found that myself in the contracting trades, the people that were the most eager to refer me were the slow payers, the late payers, and the people that beat me up on price. The first thing they say is, oh, you should go do my mom's house. And then I go to their mom's house, right? And the mom would say, well, you only charge my daughter this much. Why are you charging me that much? And I'm having the same conversation. I need you to get out of that loop. You're stuck in a loop. If you find yourself getting all of your business from word of mouth and referrals, you should also find yourself asking the entrepreneur question, how can I get myself out of this? The also thing, this is my first time speaking English. The other thing is, what if you're only doing Home Depot leads or you're getting leads from some other source? We're going to talk today about why you need multiple lead generation sources, why website traffic is important. And we're going to do the math behind leads and quality leads. You know, when you say my service, because many of you already use your own web provider service, somebody who does paid advertising or fixes your website, keep using them. But I want you to understand the math behind leads and quality leads. When you guys tell me that, oh, my service provider, my web guy gives me lousy leads, I have to ask a bunch more questions. Leads are not magic. You still have to work them. You still have to work them. If you want affluent leads, upmarket leads, bigger deals, better margins, if you want to be in front of decision makers who have pains that they want to pay to solve, those are our perfect clients, not somebody who has their own tools. We want people who don't have their own tools, who understand the value of having something done while they go off and do something fun for themselves or work on themselves or spend time with their family. They value that. And so then they value us as a contractor, right? We're going to go even deeper on local marketing, some cool contest ideas. And I want you to be a business person who happens to be a marketer who's running a business. The stuff you learn on this podcast, and very specifically today, you're going to be able to talk about at Sunday dinner with the rest of your family and your in-laws, even though your brother-in-law across the table is a dentist, your sister-in-law is a lawyer running her own firm, and your father-in-law is an architect. And they're going to be talking about their business, and you're going to be right up to speed with them talking about the business of business. Doesn't matter what trade we're in, doesn't matter what we do. It's always the business of business. I want to show you those simple systems to help you run the business, make the money you deserve, live the life you want. Those simple systems give you that quiet confidence. Take this company wherever you want to get. Do this with me right now to get ourselves in the right headspace. I want you to tilt your chin upwards a little bit. I want you to breathe in deep through your mouth and nose, put your shoulders back. That feeling, that power, that quiet confidence, that's what the show is about. That's what business coaching is about. This show's about mindset, and I just said mindset, which means it's time for joke. I'm already laughing because obviously I've seen these jokes already. But speaking of mindset, I've got a couple of dad jokes for you. Now, why dad jokes, Rubino? And why bad jokes? Why do you choose the worst jokes? And why dad jokes poorly delivered with poor timing? Because I want to get you laughing. You know that. I want to get your mind open to the possibilities. Open your mind to the opportunities in this world. So first, we're talking about HVAC today. I want you to stop. I know you guys are already doing this. Stop making air conditioning jokes. I'm not a fan. Okay. All right. Hey, how are computers and air conditioners so similar? They both stop working when you open Windows. Okay. Not all mechanical contracting is equally enjoyable. I'm going to say this seriously. You tell this to your customers. Not all mechanical contracting is equally enjoyable. For instance, drilling a large hole is boring, but fastening two pieces of metal together is riveting. Not an HVAC joke, but still the same theme. Hey, never, ever tell a window a joke. You know why? You don't want to make it crack up. Oh, gosh. All right. Say this one with a straight face. Did you know the Pentagon was originally supposed to be an octagon? Yeah, but the contractor kept cutting cord. All right. My uncle is a general contractor. He's primarily focused on the construction of new branch locations for credit unions and other financial institutions. And I got to tell you, that guy makes bank. Oh. Well, hey, all right, I got to get serious here. What did the contractor say to the impatient customer? Sir, we're doing as best as we can. All right, we're going to end ourselves with one more definite HVAC joke. The technician says to the customer, so how long has your unit not been working? The customer says, 2 weeks. The technician says, well, why'd you wait so long? This Texas heat is no joke. The customer says, my in-laws were here and they wanted to stay an entire month. Okay. So Thaddeus and Evan, that's how I'm leading you guys in. Okay. All jokes aside, you guys know I host this podcast because one day I would be proud to be your business coach, to stand beside you, to stand with you and show you how to turn this business around. Remember earlier I said, if you're getting to the next level, there's a good chance you can't see over the next hill. I've been over that hill. We have systems for getting over that hill, and I want to show you those. I have a team of coaches that I've trained to do that very same thing. I'm proud of all of them. I'm proud of you, and I want us to work together. I have high expectations for the people on my team, and you'll see that when we start to work together. Now, I'm going to go into business coach mode for you right now. 2 simple actions. Number 1 is a challenge. You guys know I put a challenge on the table in every podcast. It's fine to listen to the show. I'm glad that you do. But what are you taking away? Did you hear something? Did you learn something? Did you realize something? Great. Go do something. go make a change in your business. But then pay attention to how that changes your life or your business in the next 24 hours. And then the second thing is this. I want you to think on this idea. Are you happy being a contractor who's at that $1 or $2 million a year level? You're looking at the next level and you can't see over that hill. Are you ready to learn the steps to get there? By the end of today's episode, you'll know the answer. So let's get to it. Gentlemen, how are you?
Fantastic. And you?
I'm good. I've got two people here today. It's going to be double the wisdom.
Double the pleasure.
Double the pleasure, double the wisdom. Guys, I'm glad you're here. I know you're specialists in the trades industry, especially when it comes to marketing. And there's been some, I have to say regional questions are coming up about a slowdown in the economy. I'm not a banker. I don't know if a slowdown's coming or not. And if I can reveal my hand a bit, I kind of don't care. And I'll talk about that later. But you guys, I think, have some answers for that. Yes?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Some ideas, some things to think about.
Yeah. And you guys you're in it as well. So you're walking on the bed of coals that we call running a business in the trade space. Hey, let me start with a question here to get us into the zone. Thaddeus and Evan, who the heck are you guys? And what is it that brings you to be speaking to all these forward-facing contractors all over the world?
That is a question that we could probably take the entire show answering, but we'll try to keep her short
keep her
to the point. So, we've been in. I mean, there's a whole long story behind it, but we'll go to the short part of things after we've had plenty of other work experiences, at least my end, anyways. We were in print media for a while and having lots of conversations with lots of different business owners. And one of the things that I always found that always frustrated me was when I go in there and look, we were always taught to, why build rapport with somebody who's not a rapport builder? It's like trying to give somebody a hug who's a non-hugger. It's just always awkward. And so the easy way to build a rapport was, hey, I took a look at your website. Is there anything that's not on your website that you want me to know about your business? And then they either say no or they say yes, and then you can build rapport accordingly. But one of the things that I found is having conversations with people about online marketing. And they were like, well, I've paid somebody to build my website and I don't really know where they went. They just took off and they ran away with my money. Didn't happen like a lot of the time. A big portion of it were, hey, I have somebody doing my online marketing. I have somebody doing my digital stuff. They built a website. I have this thing called SEO. I don't really know what it is, but I don't really talk to them too much. I don't really know what they do. Then the third person that the conversation was, I got a great company. They're crushing it. My business is growing. It's phenomenal. And those conversations happen too. But I found the biggest chunk was in that middle one. And so and Evan has a different story in terms of why we got into to building what we're doing. And that's really where that came from. But, I look at myself, I mean, I've been I guess an independent contractor since 2005, and then running my own business since, I guess, when did I start that? 2009, 2010, right? And so
perfect
it's not
timing,
just
right after 2008 when
right. And it was, okay, it wasn't a very big business at the time. And then obviously it transitioned and it grew and it built and now here we are. And so the experience in terms of the business side for me is really what it is. But, I guess Evan has a different story on why and how we came to be.
Yeah. Evan.
Well, for me, so Thad and I first met selling Cutco knives when we were that was the gig that we were at. Yeah. Back in 2008, we had some fun back then, but then we went our separate ways. I stayed at the company for a little bit longer. He went off and did his own thing. One of the things that I did leaving there was become a comfort advisor because I wanted to know, could I just sell knives? And was I just good at the selling knives gig? Or could I sell something that I knew nothing about other than people needed it? And so I started doing that. I was selling HVAC equipment and did really well there. Part-time, I was the number 2 sales guy at the company.
Just part-time?
What's that?
Just part-time? You were number 2 sales guy in the company?
Yeah.
What were you guys primarily
doing the knives thing? I couldn't let go of it. It was too much fun.
Yeah, you get all those home demo. You guys did home demo sales, right?
That's exactly it.
Cutting the tomatoes and stuff.
The transition of being in the home again, just on the HVAC side of things was really easy. I just had to learn the equipment so that I could at least sound like I knew what I was talking about, right? And do measurements properly and that kind of thing. But But when I went back to the office with the HVAC company, I was like, look, why are we doing all these Home Depot leads? That was the only thing that they were doing for lead generation.
They had one strategy, Home Depot leads. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah. Over reliance on one strategy, I think.
Yeah, big time. Which, I mean, when a recession hits, what are people going to start to cut out? Right.
Well, the problem is you never know. So that's why you have to have multiple lead methods, because you don't know which one's going to get dinged or which one's going to rocket. Correct. Sorry, this is your intro, not mine. But yeah.
But typically when you're talking about that, retail stores are one of the ones that are going to lose foot traffic. So in theory, that lead source would then go down a little bit and dip a little bit. Yeah. Potentially it could go up because, well, maybe people are wanting to do their own renovations as opposed to hiring someone, but now you're relying on a guess. And so, like you said, if you can have multiple, you're always going to be better off, because I look at it as like a stool. If you're sitting on a stool and you've only got one leg, well, it's going to be really difficult to balance. Number one. Number two, if that leg goes away, well, now you're hooped. So having multiple legs, having multiple arms where leads are coming into your business, always going to be better. But so I was working there when Thad and I were at Cutco. We were running Facebook ads in 2009 when Facebook was still brand new.
Yeah.
But I was like, why are we not doing this? This is super cheap traffic coming back to our website.
At the time, it was super cheap. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
We were getting leads for $2 when I showed them how to do it. It was dirt cheap. Even now, it's still fairly inexpensive. It's just you need to have a more thorough vetting process.
You know what? Look, that's a great point there. Fairly inexpensive. I don't care how much leads are. I want to know what my acquisition cost, how much it cost me to buy the customer, and then I'll figure out how many leads we get to get there. And obviously the number's too high in the beginning, and I'm going to start dropping it down. We're talking about the math of marketing, because marketing really just comes down to math. It's not pretty colors.
And you look at those Facebook leads as a good example, right? You don't really care what the cost per lead is. Well, a lot of marketers will tout, oh, I can get you 1,000 leads for $3 a lead. Like, okay, well, I don't give a hoot and handy what that actually computes to me. How many of those are actually qualified individuals who are going to raise their hand?
Right. Qualified is the right term, because a lead is just a lead. It doesn't mean they're going to come out this weekend and watch your kid's soccer game. It's just somebody who's got moderate interest in whatever I'm providing in that ad. Right. Yeah. So that's what launched you guys into the HVAC space. Is both of you have that background, you know each other from Cutco and direct sales, and then you moved into this, and you guys came from print media. Tell me just a little bit about print media, because I've got some questions on that, because I like print for marketing, because I really believe in farming an area. What was the print background, guys?
So I brought Evan into the print world that we were in. So I got headhunted by a company that was in the US, and they're magazines that serve affluent communities. So they usually have families on the front cover. They're high color, high gloss, and then we sell advertising for businesses I want to target after those areas. And so I was one of the fourth person ever in Canada to start one of these print magazines, the first in Western Canada. I mean, they had the concept down in the States. And so you talk about trying to sell something to a market, like, well, is it going to work here? Like, well, yeah, it works. It's human nature, right? Psychology. And so overcoming those hurdles, right? And so building it up to, 50, 60, 70 magazines. I don't know what the company's at now since we left, but that whole concept of hyper local prints.
Yeah.
And also doing it in 2014 in Alberta, where, there was a little bit of a mini dip, right? And in any places where it was tied to oil and gas, there had a little bit of a mini dip in 2014 when oil went down.
Yeah. So you guys in the print world, you were hyper focusing on a neighborhood. I call it farming a neighborhood. You just choose a really typically an affluent neighborhood, or one that needs the service you've got. If you're a roofer and it's got that kind of roofs, then that's the market you serve. And kitchen cabinets, HVAC, it's all different, but you choose the neighborhood you want, and then you just hyper focus on it. And I guess you'd focus on HOAs, or in Canada, they're called strata communities, or gated communities.
Homeowners associations, and we can keep, and so there's this homeowners association stratas, condo complexes, depending on the size of the condo and where it's at, but it's usually affluent areas and affluent communities or pockets. And so it doesn't necessarily need to be an HOA. It could be an area of the city. Right. And so you could look at, I was trying to think of
Bel Air.
Grapevine,
Say
right?
Bel Air.
Well, Bel Air, right? Or, Grapevine in certain parts of Grapevine down in the DFW area, like those would be some of the more affluent areas. And so you could call it, Neighbors of Grapevine, or whatever the name of the magazine is.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like direct mail. And listen, I know you guys have an angle towards social media and using social media and everything with it, but at the same time, supporting it with some sort of local direct mail, I don't know what somebody's going to act on. But when my potential customers thinks that I'm everywhere, like, didn't I see these guys online? And now there's a direct mail piece, and oh, they're in this magazine, and oh, there's their sign on somebody's lawn. They're the only people we can ever choose. That's the answer that I want.
Well, it's an omnipresent approach, right?
There
And
you
so
go.
when you
Yeah.
talk about direct mail, you talk about, if you're at the stage of your business to be able to do billboards, but those lawn signs, that's also an underrated thing that
So underrated.
people don't use that people don't leverage that, or their vehicles, or their, whatever their vehicles are. And look, this doesn't just apply to, HVAC. I mean, this can be any business. What's your vehicle wrap like? What do your vehicles look like? They're a moving billboard. And so, but here's the other part of what happens with those traditional forms is you need to have a dialed in online presence, because what happens when
action.
Because of the call to action, right? So somebody doesn't say, okay, well, they see a vehicle in their neighborhood, or they see the yard sign across the neighbor's road. They're not going to go walk up and take a photo of the van, and look at the phone number and call it. I mean, some might, right?
Yeah.
And they're not going to call the van number. They're not going to type in the URL.
No, they're going to go check out your
vehicle, right? They're going to go to Google or Bing if you use Bing, but they're going to go to Google.
6 people.
And right.
Yeah.
So, but they're going to go to Google. They're going to type in ABC home contracting, ABC plumbing, ABC heating and cooling, whatever your business name is, going to pop up. And then they're going to go to their website. Now, if your website matches what those traditional forms are, great. Now you're winning.
And
right?
it's
But
consistent across.
if there's consistency, right? Now, if there's a disconnect in that, then okay. Or if they go on and your website is not very good, it looks like somebody built it in 1997, they might not call you.
Yeah, because you didn't match up. It's interesting that you say that. I one of the reasons I like lawn signs, and I know this sounds old fashioned, and I don't care. I know it works. Is one of the things that if you're doing a home renovation, whether it's just kitchens or windows or the whole home reno, is you put a lawn sign out front, and on the lawn sign you hang doggy bags on a reel. This is another beautiful home renovation by Rubino Renovations. We love this neighborhood. Please clean up after your pet. Well, people come up and they take a bag.
Grass.
Yeah, they take a bag, but I got a QR code on that sign. And the QR code is the call to action. That's what a CTA. Evan, what's a CTA? Sorry, I shouldn't be answering the question. Why don't I leave the experts do that? What's a CTA and why is it important? And why should it be on every piece of marketing?
So it's a call to action, and it's getting them to do something. It could be subscribing to a newsletter. It could be following you on social media. It could be an actual offer for a tune-up, a yard cleaning, a maintenance service, something. But it's getting someone to take action and to raise their hand so that you now have permission to market to them in other ways or sell to them.
Yeah. I talk about CTAs a lot in this show, but I often wonder, because I just blow past the word. They're important.
It is. Absolutely. Again, why are you doing what you're doing? You're not putting out a yard sign just for the sake of putting out a yard sign. Like, what is it you want to attach to it? And I love that idea of having the doggy bags on there, so that it's useful for not just the homeowner themselves, but also for people walking by. Parker and Sons down in Arizona, one of the biggest single location HVAC companies in the entire nation.
Yeah.
They hold a contest every single month, right? For $100 draw. Everyone who has their yard sign up is eligible to win. So they'll do the draw out of their customer database.
Great idea.
When the technician's in the neighborhood, they'll drive by the house. Yard sign's still up. They'll go knock on the door. Hey, you won the draw this month. Snap the picture, throw it on socials, throw it in the newsletter.
Oh, what a perfect way to get real pictures of real people.
Especially for businesses who might only be there for a day. Right?
Yeah,
kitchen renovation. Exactly. Well, I mean, I gutted my kitchen. I know the long process that it was.
Right? The long and painful
months.
Right. It was 3 months. Right. And so 3 months of a yard sign, great. But if you're there and you're a plumber changing on a hot water tank, you're changing on an air conditioner or furnace, whatever,
it might be quick.
You're there for half a day.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, if it's a very complicated change out, okay, maybe a day. How do you engage that lawn sign long term with something like that?
So let's go to this recession question. And I get, listen, it's coming up regionally, but nobody's been asking me about a work slowdown for years, maybe 6 or 7 years. It's just been up and up and up. And even during COVID, everybody looked around like, what's going to happen? And it just kept going up. But now I'm starting to hear little places where guys are like, is anybody else slow? Because we're feeling a bit slow right now. So let's say that's going to come to pass. And I don't know if it's going to. I don't have a crystal ball. But if it does, what do I need to be doing right now to make sure that it doesn't impact my business, as much or at all?
Well, I mean, just in terms of trends, that's the first thing that I think we need to acknowledge. And especially when it comes to, even when you compare electrical search terms, if you go to Google Trends, you can see the trends over time for different search terms. So things like AC repair, plumbing repair, drain cleaning, etc. When you look at the heating and air keywords, massive spike, and now we're on a big drop.
Oh, like over what period of time?
Over COVID.
Over COVID, it dropped.
Over COVID, it spiked.
Okay. And now it's dropped again?
Now we're back down to just what it was pre-COVID.
Okay.
And so attracting clients now is back to being a little bit more difficult because it was actually really, really easy the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You didn't have to do a whole lot to get calls. And not only that, but it was the perfect storm of, I read an article from, was it now AHR? It was last year, and they talked about how 2005 was the last time that the most boxes were shipped. Well, 15 years from that, 2020. So we're talking about just a perfect a perfect storm.
Beep.
Of all things amalgamating together to make a massive transition in terms of sales and a huge opportunity for businesses to sell a ton of units.
Any economic change is a time for opportunity, I believe, because if people are worried, and the media is the one who tells people to be worried, and if you start believing the media, then you're off in another path. But if new home starts are down, what is up? Because when something goes down, something else goes up, right? And so when new home starts go down, that's okay. Renovations, repairs, remodeling goes up. Servicing your own, maybe trying to do the work yourself. But as you guys know, how many people actually own their own tools? How many guys can service a hot water tank? How many people? First, you shouldn't at all. No. And second, I wouldn't.
Gas related.
No.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, I would think that I probably could, but I know that I shouldn't and I won't.
Yeah. Electrical and water. Those are two things that I would mix and shouldn't.
Zappity zap.
Zappity zap. So one of the things, and I don't know if you guys see this as well, but I find a lot of business owners don't actually track their marketing numbers to know whether things are up or down. And so maybe the filter I'm seeing the world through is companies that are actually tracking their numbers is saying, I'm starting to see it's a bit soft. Like things are, we used to get 14 requests a week. Now we're down to 11 and sometimes it's 8. And so they're starting to see that the trend is lower, not staying the same. What's your thoughts on tracking marketing?
Easy
way. And by the way, easy ways to do it. If you've got easy tips on how to do it.
Well, I can't sell us yet, so there goes that layup. When you talk about the easy tips, Evan can talk about those, but really the idea of tracking it is super important, right? But not just tracking the marketing, tracking what happens after the lead comes in. And this is kind of where I wanted to go because you mentioned, 14 down to 10, down to 7, right? If your lead volume is cut in half, now you have to maximize every opportunity that comes in. Right. So like if you can have the world's best marketing company, they could send you 100 leads a day. But if you're only booking 15%, and these numbers are made up, by the way, insert your industry averages here, right? If you're only booking 15%, well, you've left 85% of the potential on the other side. Now, if you're only booking 50%, great. There's still another 50% potential. Now, if you're booking 85% and you're only leaving the other 15%, you're doing amazing, right? So looking at that is you can't, we always say it internally, and we've had conversations with other marketers, is we can't make a bad business good. We can still continue to send what we need to send. We can still give you the at-bats. But if you're striking out, and sometimes there's singles, right? Not everybody's wanting a home run or a grand slam. Go for some singles, right? If you continually hit singles all the time, the odd double, the odd triple, and maybe sprinkling in a home run, well, you're going to be rocking it. But you need to get on base. And that's the idea of when somebody's calling you, generally they've raised their hand. They've got some form of a problem. So what are you doing to be able to help get that person into your ecosystem to maximize the value? And that's where a lot of the changes are going to need to happen if this recession comes to fruition.
Yeah. I have to stop and remind myself of something. The business owners listening are already busy. They listen to this show, comes out every week, and every week you got to do this and you got to do that and you got to remember this, and it can be overwhelming. And I know it has been for me in the past. So I want to remind everybody listening that what we're talking about here with Thad, do you go with Thaddeus or Thad?
I introduce myself as Thaddeus, and if you call me Thad after that, okay.
Okay, so we'll go with Thad for now.
Sure.
It's my brother-in-law's name, by the way. You're only the second Thad I've met ever.
I've met 2 other ones in my entire life.
Oh, one of them might be my brother-in-law.
Well, maybe. No, I know. I sold Cutco to him when I was doing Cutco.
So but the conversation we're having right now is at the top of this is where I'm going to get all business coachy. Okay, guys, if you're going to nap now. At the top of the business operations flowchart is marketing, right? All business. It doesn't matter what the business is. It could be your grocery store, it could be your dentist, your lawyer, guys selling Cutco knives. It all starts with marketing. From marketing, you move into the sales part of your business. From sales, you move into some sort of sales administration. We're in trades, right? So there's engineering or drafting or schematics, whatever that is. Then it goes to production or installation, repair, remodel, whatever that is. Then we go to accounting and legal. Hopefully we don't need, right? But that's generally the path of how business flows in and out of a company. So for everybody listening, when every week you tune in and I'm like, you got to do this and then you got to do that. What we're talking about now is the top of the flow chart. And so if the economy takes any sort of shift, the place to go, this is a business coach inside secret, is you go up. You always go up the flow chart. And so what Thad and Evan are talking about right now is the place to focus if there's a market shift. Fix your marketing, get solid on your marketing, track your numbers like you guys were saying. Everything else after that you can fix. There's going to be other bottlenecks, yeah? Just go fix that after. But first, fix the market.
No, definitely. And to go back to your point about tracking, I mean, it can be something as simple as asking the customer. Now, I will caveat this and say, do not have it be the first question out of your mouth or your CSR's mouth, because your customers don't care about your marketing efforts.
Yeah.
So jumping right in and saying, how did you hear about us? They don't care.
Yeah.
They're just going to say Google anyways. They want you to care about their problem, especially when it's an emergency, a plumbing emergency, electrical emergency, HVAC emergency. They want you to take care of their problem first. Once that's handled and they know that they're going to be taken care of, now you can ask them, hey, by the way, how did you hear about us today? They're going to be much more receptive to that. Yeah. So that's an easy way. Secondary option and a better way is to have some sort of call tracking in place so that you have different phone numbers set up for each marketing effort that you're putting out.
Yeah.
And there's most of the call tracking softwares like Call Tracking Metrics, CallRail, they have some sort of DNI, which is a phone number swapping on your website. So if they came to your website from Facebook, your Facebook phone number will show up on your website. It won't hurt your SEO if it's done correctly, but that's the way to do it so that you can properly track where your marketing efforts are coming from.
You want to know how old I am? Say, how old are you?
How old are you?
So this goes back to your Cutco days, guys. We used to run classified ads. Not that I was in Cutco, but in the old days of tracking, because you had one phone number. We didn't have apps and tools like that. You would run an ad and the call to action would be call Mr. Anderson at this number. And then the other ad would say call Mr. Bradshaw at this number. And then the next ad would say call Mr. Cunningham at this number. And so all I knew that was A, B, or C ad. And that was the entire tracking that we had available to us. This is the days of early split testing.
Absolutely.
Right? Tested Advertising Methods by John Caples. It's an old, but it's still a fantastic book, right?
Absolutely.
What you can learn from the days of classified advertising still applies today.
Well, it's the same, but different. It's just shifted to the online world. The one caveat that I will give is when you say that, how do you hear about us? And sometimes people don't remember, or they say the wrong thing, right? And so don't put and it's, by the way, it's a fantastic thing to add in to your mix, just how Evan described it, but don't get too hung up on the data on what it says. In perfect example, in the print days, I had a client who's like, it's people just aren't calling and marking down that they're coming in. I ask every person, on their little questionnaire, it's the very last thing. How do you hear about us? And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the data. And so we took 30 minutes one day. We went through all the data and where it's at. And he's like, I had 100 people this last month, say that they heard me on the radio.
Out of the
I've never
radio.
ran any radio ad in my life.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so like it good example of that, right? So just being cautious
But you want
sometimes
to,
is that it's
yeah.
not 100% accurate.
Yeah. Um, Before we move off this too much, I want to ask you guys, what's your thought on missing phone calls? Because you guys know how to get phone calls into my company. Oh, big smiles on your faces, guys. Try not to act like, so we didn't pre-plan this question, but earlier you mentioned we can't, what did you say? We can't fix a broken business?
I can't make a bad business good.
We can't make a bad business good. So when you get a company that's strong at marketing, which I assume you guys are, and you start stuffing leads into a company that can't consume them, the stuff that spills out the side is waste. It's wasted efforts, it's wasted money, it's wasted everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of those wastes is just not returning the phone call because you're busy turning wrenches or answering another customer. So what kind of tools do you guys help people put in place or guide them towards to make sure they're not missing those calls?
Well, always have somebody answering your phone no matter what, and try to limit the amount of hold time. So that's step number one. And if you're in a business that takes after hour phone calls, make sure that there's a live answering service answering that. They don't have to book them on the spot unless it's like a true emergency. You need to send somebody, after hours, right? If their hot water tank exploded and there's water all over their basement, okay, probably want to have somebody coming out right then and there. If you're in the northern US and it's cold and the furnace goes, well, probably want somebody there that night. AC, you might be able to push that off to the next day. But making sure that there's somebody there that can actually be a human on the other end of the phone and answer them and not limit the amount of time spent on hold. Barring that, if you're not able to answer that phone, putting in some form of a missed call text back via some form of automations as well.
Wow.
So if you call and the person and you don't happen to, you don't get a chance to answer the phone for this, that, or the other reason, that sends a text to them right away from that same number, or another number. Hey, this is ABC company.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry you missed your call. How can we help? That's just a variation. Obviously, you can change in the wording.
Yeah,
and
sure. But
there's
automated services
Correct.
that if a call comes in, like Thad was saying, a call comes in, we miss it. There's a text that goes back to the customer. So, because do you guys have any stats on how many numbers a customer will call before they stop calling?
Like,
let's say they
to
go
a business, how many times or how many people they would try to call?
Let's use your industry as an example. Let's say somebody their heater's gone. So they need an answer. They need to find somebody to fix that heater right now. So they go to Google and they're like, heater repair in my home or in my area, or whatever they type in for their local area. They go to the first listing, don't get a phone call. Second, don't get a phone call back. Third, don't get how far do they go before they stop?
They're going to be like a toddler walking, and they're going to keep going until they find someone. There is no other option. The heater's out.
Yeah.
Right? Especially here right now, it's 4 degrees today, right? If the heater goes out, your house is really, really cold. You don't have another option.
28.
Just do it.
It's 28.
Right? It's 36. It's 36 where I'm at right now. So also,
but you're right. Yeah. So they need to get that call answered with some faith that they're going to be served in some way.
Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so how do you guys help with that? I mean, you got HVAC revealed on your hat, and then on purpose media above you there, Evan. So what you guys just wear different hats and backgrounds, or what's going on here?
They're both black and pink. So so HVAC revealed. So we have a podcast, HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, where we bring on individuals, from to help others unleash the ultimate HVAC business. And look, I think a lot of the stuff that we talk about isn't just related to HVAC businesses, right? It's plumbing, it's electrical, it's a lot of home service based business, like home services, not home service based, but home service businesses, to be able to help them grow their business and pulling back some of those, whether it's individuals such as yourself, you're coming on later on to our show, that are, vis-a-vis vendors, right? But have the ability to provide value, or bringing on business owners who have been there, done that, and are in the growth cycle as well. And so that's really the idea behind the podcast.
Yeah. Have you ever met Steve Moon, the Moon Man?
No, but I think you told me about him last time we had a conversation.
Yeah. I saw him speaking at a conference called Business Uncensored. And as soon as he started talking, I'm like, I got to have this guy on my show, because he's not a marketing company. He happens to be an HVAC company. And a lot of the stuff he was talking about is that grassroots guerrilla style marketing, like he delivers pumpkins to everybody in the neighborhood. neighborhood in air quotes, the neighborhood he wants to do business in.
Correct.
But he delivers those around Halloween.
It's a good time to stand out.
That would
right?
be bad. I was thinking ahead because he also delivers potted plants in the spring. Right. To the same thing. So people see him and they come out and get their potted plant. And who are they going to call for their HVAC needs? Anyways, I can introduce you. He's a fantastic guy. What do you see are the trends? No, let's not do that. What are the blind spots that you guys keep seeing business owners have when you have that first conversation? They're asking about X, Y, and Z, but you realize they're missing 1, 2, and 3. What's that 1, 2, and 3 that they are missing?
I think one of them is what you just alluded to and what we just talked about around missing calls and the operational shortfalls. Marketing is, especially when it's an outside arm, real easy to blame them for lack of calls, lack of business, etc. Right. But I'll give you a real world example here. We've got one client had a really tough year, and month after month, it was a constant conversation of, well, you missed 62% of your calls last month. You missed it. The highest it was 74% of the calls was missed in 1 month.
Like just missed the call.
Missed the call.
Didn't return it. Nothing. Just went to nowhere.
Well, he might have returned it, but didn't answer it.
He very well could have returned the calls after.
Sure.
But that was just missed opportunity right at the beginning.
70
versus another one of our companies. They are 99 years old, been in the market forever. Their great and grandfather started the company. They turn 100 this upcoming year, so they're doing a big celebration for that, which is really great.
Yeah.
They just had their best year ever. Last year, their biggest month was $700,000. This year, we eclipsed that 5 times. Is about to be 6.
6 what?
So
6.
6 months we beat their best month ever.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay.
In this year. So we've done a fantastic job with them, but it's the perfect partnership of great operations mixed with great marketing, because they're answering 97% of their calls. They're leaving no opportunity missed.
I was going to say opportunity knocks and they're actually answering the door.
Exactly.
Yeah. And listen, to be fair, people are starting out. I feel for them because I've started out more times than I can, and I'm sure I missed calls. I was just busy. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I can't get back to the person. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I need more business. Where am I going to get more business? Forgetting that I missed 3 phone calls that day. That was more business. But you just got to go through the cycles and get things in place. What's neat now is all of the things that used to be limiting factors when I was starting out, because I'm much older. Phone system, no longer a limiting factor. Right. Doesn't exist. Cell phones, and there's multiple online tools. Back in the day, you had to get a 4-seat override, and it was probably about $40,000 to install a phone system in your office. One computer was $12,000 to $15,000.
Correct.
One computer.
You're really dating yourself there.
Yeah, I know. But I've been at this a while. I've still not gotten it right. But all of those things are gone. Like, you get an app and we all complain, oh my God, they want $18 a month for this app. Get the app, cancel if you don't like it, but please stop talking to me about the $18. Like, I get it. It's a concern. It's a business expense. Should we take it or not? At some point though, you're wasting money and time by just, I'll go with this other one. It's $3 a month. It doesn't do everything. And we have to do this and that. No. Get the $18 one. Yep. Save yourself the time, buy the service you need. If you don't like it, cancel.
Yep.
Well, and that's when you look at high performing business owners, they're quick to make decisions. That's one of the top traits that they all have in common, is the speed of implementation.
Yeah, that's a big point.
Decision fatigue. It's a real thing. And so if you're constantly making decisions and thinking about it and putting more strain on it, it takes away from your ability to be working within your craft and to live in that area of excellence that you are great at.
Yeah. Hey, that's a really good point, Evan. Tell me about a success story about somebody who started with you as a one-man show. I keep saying man, but one-person show. So think about a one-person show that you had. They started with you, and they broke through this barrier, and now they started to consume more leads and convert more. What was their first hire after it was just them? Tell me that story.
There's a handful that I'm thinking of right off the bat. And honestly, it was split. It was technician for half of them, and it was CSR for the other half.
CSR being in some sort of admin position.
Correct. Someone who can answer the phone for them.
Yeah, customer service representative would be the CSR term there. So and well, just on that, like I put starting in missed calls, right? In circling back, because we're on the CSR thing, is like, hey, if you might not necessarily have the opportunity to hire a full-time CSR, there's a lot of part-time answering services out there that if it rings to your phone X amount of times and you don't pick it up, great, it forwards it to them, boom, they pick it up right away.
Yeah.
Right. And so now you still have that human person, and it's part-time. It's not going to cost you the same as it would to hire somebody into your business. Yes, it's an expense, but it's also an investment, because now if you have good marketing and you have a good flow of leads, but the problem is not answering them and getting them on the board, well, now you can get more on the board to A, fill your schedule up, but B, then you hire a technician or an installer, whoever in terms of your industry, to help you with the volume that you're having.
And that's what we're talking. I love that, because this show is about the business of the contracting business. I don't want to make you better on the tools. You're coming to the wrong guy. Right? If you want to be a business person who happens to be a contractor, this is the right show, because that's what we're talking about here. And that's why I asked that question. So the CSR, the admin, somebody who starts to take those calls, is the answer I thought it was going to be. And then Evan, as you were saying, they hired a technician in the field. That's great too, because I'll bet when they hired the tech in the field, they started taking the phone calls. So either way, they were dealing with those leads. Imagine, I use this analogy a lot, but imagine sitting in a cave. You've got a tribe, right? And everybody's huddled and cold. It's raining outside and you're in the cave and you're the leader of the small tribe. We're going way back in the days of bows and arrows, right? And everybody's hungry and the antelope are walking out the front of the cave and everybody's like, we're hungry. And we're like, none of the antelope are coming inside, laying down by the fire and slowly cooking themselves until they're delicious. You got to go whack the thing. You got to go drag it in here. And it's the same thing. You've got potential customers walking by, phoning, leaving you little hints online, like liking your comments for months before they take action. Those are all antelope walking by. I should have chosen a slower animal.
Speed goats.
Speed goats. That's right. Speed goats. But you get the analogy though, right? They're not just going to walk in. Yeah,
very rarely. Just the one thing on answering
balance, though, as a business is you're looking at one, how can we go hunt? How can we go find what's coming in? But two, looking at a boat that's sinking because you've got too much water coming into it all at once, and you're focused on getting the water out of your boat versus plugging the holes.
Yeah, right.
If you're not plugging the holes of your funnel, if you're not plugging the holes of your business, and being able to take in that call volume and get that call on your job board, then you're wasting your ad dollars. You're wasting your opportunities.
Yeah. Thad, you had
on that answering yourself. I would caution some business owners from that, just because you might not have the empathetic touch to be able to be that person on the phone. Okay. Just, that was
really nicely said, by the way. We know what you're trying to say. Just because you're good on the tools doesn't mean you're good on the phone. Maybe we need somebody more nurturing, nicer.
Correct. Because you think about when they do call, a lot of times they're in need of something, and you want to be able to, I think about a furnace or an air conditioner or a pipe burst or whatever. Like, those people are in pain, right? We talk a lot of times about a problem and a solution, problem, solution, problem, solution. Okay, well, marketing is about getting that the right message at the right time to the right person. Okay, and so you look at somebody that's calling from a Google search, a pay-per-click ad, like a Google ad, right? They have a problem. They are actively seeking out a solution.
Yeah.
Okay? So you need to meet them for that problem and be compassionate to their plight. And not everybody has that compassionate bone. It's been a learned skill for me. It's like, you ask Evan what it was like watching my change over the last 16 or 17 years of us knowing each other. Right, it's been a lot, right? Because I didn't have that compassionate bone to me. Well, I did. I just didn't. I was an ass. I was a jerk.
Has it changed?
Oh yeah. Well, I situational.
He's just got a filter. That's all.
Yes.
He's got a filter now.
So he's still a jerk at heart, but
right.
You call it a jerk. I call it a commanding leader. Let me talk about compassion though. Let's have compassion for a second for somebody listening to this show right now while they're installing a pocket door, while they're doing tiling. And while they've been trying to listen to the show, they got 3 phone calls.
Mhm.
And, you talked about who, I think, Evan, you mentioned decision-making fatigue. You can't get anything done. There's been days when I just need to do stuff and I can't get anything done because calls are coming in. They're all important. But if I put that filter between myself where I've got a CSR, you called it a CSR, I might call it an admin to make it more generic, like somebody else who takes the phone calls and I can just do the work. Eventually, I'll be able to hire another technician to install the pocket door, to do the tiling, to install the cabinets, whatever the job is, doesn't matter. But a lot of the owners listening to this cannot get a break. They cannot get a minute to themselves because they haven't built in a tiny system, which is what we're talking about here. And again, I'm going to say it needs to start at the top of the business operations flowchart. Dead boring. I get that, but you start with marketing and then everything else you start to pick away at on the way down.
Well, and I think the other problem is that they look at the first thing that they ask themselves when presented with a problem is, how do I figure it out? How do I get it done? And while it's an okay question to ask, it's not the right one because it requires more effort from you. And so there's a great book by Dan Sullivan called Who Not How.
Yeah.
Right. So when presented with a problem, instead of focusing on how can I get this done, how can I solve this, it's who do I need to add in so that we can solve this?
Who can do this for me? Yeah.
Yeah. There's fractional CSRs, there's fractional admin people, there's fractional bookkeepers, you name it.
Yeah.
You pay them a portion of a salary instead of a full salary, and now you've got your calls being covered.
Well, and here's another mindset shift, and it's just it was awkward when I first said it over the weekend, but I'm listening to Clockwork, great book. He's kind of like the number 2 between implementing the entrepreneur's operating system with Gino Wickman, like that's the 3rd stage. But transitioning, and it sparked my mindset when you said, business person, you have to be a contractor. Well, a lot of times entrepreneurs, business owners, they say they're a business owner. Well, really, you're a shareholder with inside of your business, right? And you think about the concept of a shareholder, right? Shareholders, they don't do the work, but they get dividends. They grow with the business, but as a shareholder. And so if you frame that mindset to say, I'm not a business owner, I'm not a contractor, I am a shareholder, okay? Using what Evan talked about, who not how, who can I put into my business to be able to remove those tasks so I can be a shareholder, right? Yeah. I'm a shareholder of a small business.
And most people don't, I want to see, is the author of Clockwork Cameron Harold?
I just started listening to it on Audible.
Let's see here.
Clockwork. Oh no,
Mike.
Nathan
that's
Hill.
Mike Michalowicz.
No, that's the wrong one. Sorry. I was looking at what is recommended to me. So yes, Mike Michalowicz.
Yeah.
Forward by Gino Wickman from the
That's right. So Michalowicz is great. He wrote Profit First and the Pumpkin Plan and Toilet Paper Entrepreneur. He's been on the show a couple times too. Love his stuff. Love his methodology. Nice. Yeah. Guys, let's start to, if somebody wants to find you guys and find out more and ask you questions that are much more detailed about the HVAC industry or listen to your podcast, how do we find you?
Well, first you can find our website, onpurposemedia.ca, because we are Canadian, but that
you guys work, you can work anywhere.
Yes,
you just happen to be in Canada.
Vast majority of our client base.
I thought .ca was .California.
I won't even open that one up. I'll
onpurposemedia.ca. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so because .com was several thousands of dollars, and when we were starting it up, we're like,
Yeah.
So that would be the first place. We do have a free marketing analysis on there, no obligations. We'll peel back curtains in terms of how you're showing up online. We'll send you that report, and you can do with it what you will. You can send it to your current marketing company. You can implement the information yourself, or we can have a deeper dive conversation from there. The podcast, the reason we started it was because we can't work with everyone, and not the right fit, not the right timing. Maybe we have too many clients in that market already. Whatever the situation is, we can't work with everyone. So we've got the podcast where we put out free information. We go live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Mountain-ish, give or take an hour or so. Sometimes we'll go an hour later, an hour earlier, depending on the guests when they're available. But we do go live. We do drink on that show a little bit, and it tends to loosen up the guests just enough so that we can really find the goods behind what it is that's allowed them to be really successful. So we have a lot of fun with that. You can find HVAC Revealed if you look it up on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify Podcasts or Google Podcasts or wherever it is that you
any podcast place.
It's also on our website too. Just when you go to the website, you'll see the banner on the top saying HVAC Revealed. Click on that guy, you'll find all the info as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
or
gentlemen,
just Google it because guess what? We are good at SEO, and if you Google HVAC Revealed, well, we're pretty much there.
That's the first test. If you
Right.
can't find you under your own keywords, trouble. So folks, listen, if you have questions about media, if you have questions about how to get your marketing up, if there is any sort of market change, I guess we talk to people like this, or at least keep listening to the show to find ideas like this. Thanks for joining me, guys. We'll have you back again.
Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Well. What did you learn from Thaddeus and Evan? And what can you put in place? We talked about the whole scope of marketing, about the different places that you can have an impact. And you really want to start to have an impact in a very specific neighborhood or area of the city. It just keeps you confined in a good way. So, because we don't get paid for windshield time, right? So it's interesting. These guys are talking a lot about the social media and web side, but supporting it with local marketing efforts. Signage. I love that contest idea, especially for those of us that have a trade where we only show up for 1 or 2 days. How do you incent people? How do we have incentives in place for them to keep the sign up, right? How do we take care of those people for keeping the sign up? And that simple contest could be a game changer. All of these things are game changers, but you and I have to put them in place. That's all it comes down to. Speaking of putting things in place, I want to just share with you a text exchange I had between myself and Chris. I don't know if he goes by Chris or Christopher, but he does home renos. And he was texting me, like many of you do, to get one of these free downloads. So I'm not going to actually tell you my answers. I'm just going to tell you because it's interesting to see how he changed, how he became that contractor who now knows something new, and he'll never, ever be back to who he was before. There's a church in my area. It's near a Starbucks. And, you know, it's always got the cool saying on the sign. And this is one of my favorite. A mind once expanded will never regain its original shape. And it sticks in my mind. I hope I'm doing that here on the show for you. A mind once expanded will never regain its original shape. Right? The other thing I have to keep in mind for all of you guys is this saying that I've been living by for I want to say my entire life, but I can't remember not thinking it. What I say to myself when no one is listening is what the world sees when everyone is watching. You're listening to this podcast not because you get high fives and attaboys from everybody else around you, but because somehow you're internally driven to find the information you need to show you the steps for getting your contracting business to the next level. That's what you're doing here. So this is what Chris, if it's Christopher, I won't use your last name anyways, but here's the text exchange we had going back and forth. The first one, hi, can I get the go back report? So that's his message to me. And then, of course, we go back and forth. And then I get a message back. Hey, Dom, I'm stuck. Am I overheads or labor? Okay, good. So we have the little exchange back and forth, right? Then I get another. This would be the third, real question, right? Okay, how do I put my foreman and PM in here? They're on so many jobs, it doesn't make sense to time track them. Okay, well, good. So he's doing time tracking. And he's got a great question. How, do foremen and project managers go into overheads or labor? Where do they fit in the go back report? And do they have to use time tracking? So he's good. Then we go back and forth. We get a little bit of chit chat going on. I get a text message from him. I got my number, ! I've been missing the labor burden. So he found something else that he was missing. Now, he was missing charging it, but the government did not miss charging him for it. So he was losing that money. It's called one of our profit leaks. You guys have heard me talk about profit leaks here before, right? Another message comes in. Got it. I never knew this before. Thanks. So that's good. It feels like we're wrapping things up here, right? He got what he needed. Off we both go. Happy. Both of us grew a little bit as people. Excellent. Then I get a message. Sold my first deal at the new number. I'm going to set up a time to talk to you more. Fantastic. So there's that's kind of the, the arc of the story. That's how it goes from somebody going, hey, can I get the go back report? Because I'm curious. I want to get to the next level, but as I've said, I can't see over the next hill. You use that tool as a very specific tool for business turnaround. That's what you're doing. Listening to this show is you're starting to reinvent your business. And then you can see what Christopher is doing. And he does home renos, just like he's a tradesman like the rest of us, taking those simple steps. So I thought, based on Thaddeus and Evan's interview today, and then Christopher's comment that I just shared with you, I want to simplify and solve a common problem for our industry, and our industry being the owners of contracting companies. So there's two different downloads I want you to have access to based on this theme. One of them is how to have an unlimited marketing budget. Because if you want to hire, feel free to talk to Thaddeus and Evan if you want, or anybody else in that industry. But how do you pay for them? Because there's a charge, right? Well, if you want an unlimited marketing budget, I have a download for that. And guess what it's called? It's called How to Have an Unlimited Marketing Budget. You're going to see me looking around at my screen here. Unlimited marketing budget. Let me just tell you a little bit about it. Unlimited marketing budget. Here it is. So I just open it up, have a look at it. So how many pages is this thing? 5 pages. I like them to be short. I like them to be printable so you can go to a coffee shop and just work on it on your own. It only takes 3 minutes to read, but it's a mindset tool that you need to take notes on. So there's the first thing. And then the next one is the profit pack. So you can text me and say unlimited marketing budget, or you can text me and say profit pack. Now, the reason I put profit pack in there is because of Chris, the home renovation guy, and his comments back and forth. He was using one of the tools, which is the go back calculator. Now, as you know, the go back calculator has a couple of different names because myself and my coaches, we use it as a tool in different places, and in different places, it means different things. So we call it the go back calculator because it's got a kind of a ring to it. It's easy to remember to text us, but it's actually the 1 hour job estimate calculator. How much would it cost you to do 1 hour of work at a customer's home, residential or commercial? Doesn't matter. But what does it really cost you, the business owner? And then we've got in there the ultimate getting things under control guide, how to calculate your revenue responsibility per hour, the healthy, wealthy, wise planner, and the where are my blind spots download, which is really powerful for you to just take all of the emotion out of the business and apply it through logic. By the way I see that tool used a lot is in family businesses and partnerships. One of the partners, or let's just say one of the partners, is listening to the show, but another person in the company who's also an owner isn't. They'll print off that form, have a meeting with that other person at like Denny's or something, and just talk it through. It doesn't change the world immediately, but it gets the conversation started. So many times, our job as business coaches is to get the conversation started. And then guess what happens? Change starts to happen. Slowly at first, picking up momentum over time. Anyways, I hope that helped. Thaddeus and Evan, thank you very much for being on the show. You guys are really good interviews. If you want either of those two documents, folks, send me a text, 315-903-7853, and just say unlimited marketing budget, or text me and say profit pack. And then guess what I'll do? Send you back either of those two documents or packages. So once again, it's 315-903-7853. Listen, I appreciate you listening to the show. I really do. One day, I hope we have a chance to meet, have a glass of wine, cup of coffee over a table, and talk like real humans. That would make me very, very happy. Until then, this podcast is going to have to do. You have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.